Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We are back on another episode of Daily Palantir. It has been a long time since we have been on this show. Been about 2 weeks, but I am back, ready to go in action, and excited to discuss everything in the world of Palantir. Now, why was I gone for 2 weeks? I was in India, as a lot of you may know if you follow up with the market open and market close streams, and I got back on Monday. So excited to be back. Got a lot of stuff to talk about in the world of Palantir. Thank you to everyone who sent good wishes while I was in India. A lot of people were just, sending me good wishes on being in a different country and hoping I would be there safely and coming back soon to make more Palantir content. And it is finally time to get back to that Palantir content. And, quite frankly, over the past 2 weeks, not much has happened with Palantir. We had a stock that's been oscillating from about 40 to 44. So we'll talk about price action in a little bit. But the past 2 weeks have been relatively quiet, and it makes sense because the stock has been on an absolute tear. They had a ton of press releases and conferences with AIPCon over the past 2 months. So you'd imagine they take a little bit of a break before we get into the Super Bowl, which is November 4th, Palantir's Q3 earnings. And so over those 2 weeks, as I got to go to India, I got to take a little bit of break because the Palantir news wasn't as big in the past 2 weeks. So we're back, and it's really fun to be back on a day where Alex Karp joined CNBC to talk about the latest partnership they had with L3 Harris. We're going to talk about that partnership. And there was a 2-minute rant that Karp went on in the span of a 15-minute interview where he was asked about the analysts and their confusion around Palantir. And let's just say this was, quite frankly, the best 2 to 3 minutes of Karp speaking on the concepts of how analysts think of Palantir, how analysts understand Palantir, and quite frankly, what is the real value of AI that analysts don't fully understand within Palantir. So exciting stuff to talk about. Happy to be back. Thank you everybody for being here. Let's get into it. All right, before we get started, I want to start off with price action and discuss that a little bit, and then we'll go further from there. So Palantir right here on the day, 43.59. We ended the day up about 2%, 2.28%, 43.56. Really over the past month, we've had a hell of a run. So S&P inclusion happened in early September, September 6th. The stock was 29.50 that day. Today the stock is 43.56. So we've obviously had an incredible run. While I was in India, we not only broke through 40, we broke through 40, I think a couple days before I went to India, but we weren't really holding it. We got to India, we're holding 40. And then while I was in India for the first 4 days, we went from 40 to 41. And then on one day, if you guys remember, I think it was 2 Fridays ago, we went from 41 to 42 to 43. And then I think a couple days after that, we hit 44, although it was briefly. So I think now the stock's kind of in a little bit of a consolidation period. I don't even know if we can call this consolidation because realistically, I think the stock is not moving to the upside or the downside because everyone is concerned about Q3 earnings. And look, it makes sense to be concerned about Q3 earnings. The stock has had a phenomenal run over the past 2 months. And now the market's like, all right, we're giving you a $97 billion market cap. We're giving you a 40 times price of sales. We're giving you a 220 PE. Can you put up the numbers in Q3? That doesn't have to justify those numbers per se, but allows us to feel that we're overpaying for a reason. And the reason not only is the exceptional leadership, exceptional culture, and exceptional technology, but also exceptional growth, or at least growth that is going to become exceptional. And can you give us the signs on Q3 earnings that that's on the way? And so I think Q3 earnings are going to be very important. You're not seeing the stock really sell off in anticipation for those earnings because people, I think, have a little bit of a hunch that, look, Palantir is back to reaccelerating growth, and it doesn't look like that's going to reverse, which means if it's not going to reverse, then you're probably going to see some acceleration. Maybe that doesn't take the stock to $50, but that might keep the stock in this $40 to $44 range. And then I think you also have people that aren't buying it in ahead of earnings and getting it to $45, $46 because, so many people have bought already that now they're kind of waiting to see what happens on those earnings. So I'll have future videos over the next couple of days in terms of my actual expectations for earnings. But in general, I do think that we've spent a lot of episodes over the past couple of weeks talking about this overvaluation, expensive type of argument. My thoughts are still the same. Palantir is an expensive stock. It is not an overvalued stock because I think there is a justification for them to grow into this valuation. And the market just wants to buy the stock before they get into that valuation, which happens many times with amazing tech companies that have generational talent and generational leadership. So from that perspective, oscillating between 40 and 44, I think that's fine. Now we're going to have to see what happens on earnings, and then we will kind of have a better understanding of where the trajectory of growth is going for Palantir. Okay, partnership. So let's quickly look at this partnership with L3 Harris, and then we're going to get into the good stuff of today's episode, which is Karp talking on CNBC. So L3 Harris is another defense contractor. They do more than just defense contracting, but still, that is one of the primary parts of their business. This came out yesterday. L3Harris and Palantir Technologies today announced a strategic partnership to propel advanced technology development and accelerate L3Harris's digital transformation. The company's complementary capabilities, including L3Harris's sensors and software-defined systems and Palantir's AIP, will together enable new levels of capability and resilient connectivity across the joint all-domain network, ensuring warfighters can make more informed decisions faster to protect our nation's security and that of our allies. So it's really exciting because you're starting to see other defense companies, Anduril is another one that announced partnerships with Palantir over the past year, realize that, hey, from a software perspective, we need to be incorporating something like Palantir because Palantir actually deals with software in defense. And it kind of makes no sense at all if you're a defense contractor that needs a software application inside internally for different use cases and externally for your clients to not think of using Palantir. Further from the press release, it says L3Harris and Palantir's strategic partnership encompasses a variety of ongoing initiatives, including collaboration on U.S. Army programs like Titan, which Palantir is the software prime that they won in February, $189 million contract, and efforts aligned with the U.S. Army's unified network strategy, leveraging Palantir AIP internally at L3Harris for enterprise-wide digital transformation initiatives and development and demonstration efforts with sensors, radios, and other advanced technologies. Together, Palantir and L3Harris are investing in novel solutions that will push computing to the far edge, from radios as sensors to orbital processing on satellites that will help lead the future of communication and tactical decision making. I mean, my reaction to this is that it makes a lot of sense that other defense contractors are looking at Palantir in the defense space and they're saying, hey, we probably should be working with them. They're on the cutting edge of defense. They're on the cutting edge of technology. They're having this massive commercial business, and they're taking a lot of the stuff they're learning from the government side in terms of R&D, bringing that to commercial. Then they're learning a ton of stuff that's working in commercial, bringing that to government. And it just doesn't make sense, in my opinion, if you're a defense contractor to want a digital transformation / AI strategy and not take a look at Palantir. Because if you're dealing in very highly secured, classified, confidential environments, then it would obviously beg the question, why don't we work with a partner that also does that? And that ends up being Palantir. So having said that, that partnership today was very important, and that led to Palantir's CEO, Alex Karp, being on CNBC today. And he had some things to say. We're going to listen to two clips. This is the one that I really want to talk about because it encompasses a probably revolving feeling that Karp has had over the past 2 months after S&P inclusion, after the analysts have still not really understood what's going on with Palantir. He's asked about that, and here is what he has to say. All I'm going to say is if you haven't seen these 3 minutes yet, buckle up because you're about to go on a ride.
Palantir, third best company, third best performer in the S&P 500, even though it's a new entrant. A lot of analysts don't necessarily fully understand, I think, what you do on all aspects, but investors certainly seem to get it, particularly on the commercial side. I realize there's been a reacceleration in the U.S. government business, but the commercial business is really what's propelling the stock. What are you seeing, especially as you do have these artificial intelligence platform boot camps and adoption levels?
Well, look, I mean, first of all, to your first, intelligent people learn from their mistakes and learn to realize when they made a mistake in the pattern. Everyone else becomes an analyst or an advisor. So, people have been saying we're overvalued for the last 20 years. People have been saying our products would make us profitable, that we would not be able to become a juggernaut, that we would not become GAAP profitable, we would not get on the S&P. And, keep saying that about us. We love it. It discourages people from doing anything like what we're doing, and we are winning. Now, why are we winning in U.S. commercial? Because we learned in the government that what makes AI valuable is the ability to manage algorithms or large language models. Every financial analyst wakes up in the morning and with notable exceptions that we really revere, wakes up in the morning and after they stay at Motel 6, they have a huge opinion about how to manage large language models. It's completely theoretical and idiotic. If you want to manage large language models or AI, the infrastructure that allows you to manage them is where the actual value is. The large language model is essentially a commodity that you can value and use depending on cost and veracity. And they completely don't get it. But you know who does get it? Our commercial American customers. And despite the fact that we barely have a sales team and that I'm providing my pontifications of truth, including America's a great country, which many of them don't like, our allies deserve protection, Israel is in the right, whatever is pissing them off, They're still buying the product. And the reason they're buying it is because our ontology and our AIP allow you to deploy and use AI in a way where it changes your margins, it changes your go-to-market, it changes your ability to kill or take out adversaries in a much safer way with much lower costs. And American companies are dynamic and interesting and run by some of the best people in the world, some of whom are much better at partying core than you'd ever imagine on TV. And they adopt. And so, it's like, do you want to believe what the librarian says about a book, or do you want to go out in the world and see if it works? And we are in the business of making our commercial customers work. And sure, yeah, we have a ton of player haters. Keep hating on us.
Keep hating on us, baby. That was one of the most exciting segments I've seen since I've been covering Palantir, since 2021, that Karp has given in a while. I mean, it was just peak Karp, because I think what has happened over the past couple of months, which is very important to understand, is the stock has gone up a lot, like a lot. We're talking about almost a $100 billion company. For context, L3 Harris, the CEO who is with Karp right there, their company's valuation is $45 billion. Their revenue this quarter, today, they announced earnings, $6 billion. Palantir's market cap, double that at $97 billion. Their revenue, which is probably going to come out in Q3, my guess is going to be close to $730 million. So you're talking about a multiple divergence that is massive across these two companies. But why is Palantir getting the bid? Well, there is an exciting narrative and story and mother effing CEO that makes you listen. The most exciting part about that segment right there is I think Karp basically saw the stock go up over the past couple months as dramatically as it has. He realizes that this has been his dream, right? Since he founded the company, to have a company that could actually encompass the world's attention, get to a $100 billion market cap, get into the S&P 500. And now he's seeing the haters and the doubters and the skeptics that are saying this is unjustified, this doesn't make any sense, it's overvalued, blah, 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 blah. And look, there's legitimate questions around the actual fundamentals and numerical valuations of the stock. There's no denying that. However, what I've been seeing, and I've been saying this on the Market Open over the past couple of weeks, is a lot of people, particularly on Twitter, that are just like, this is the most overvalued company in the world, you have to short it. And it's deeper than numbers to these people. To these people, they're just like upset. They're like genuinely upset that Palantir is getting this valuation. And I'm like, dude, good companies have been overvalued and expensive before many times. Amazon, Nvidia, Tesla, like these things have happened. Palantir is just following in the footsteps of other stocks that have captured the zeitgeist of attention when it comes to what people care about in a technology company, and people buy it up before the stock grows into it. So the level of vitriol I think some people have around the stock goes deeper than just the numeric valuations. And I think Karp's kind of reflecting on all of that, and he's like, look, these guys just need to relax, because we are executing, we are killing it. We are not slowing down. And then you see in some of the quotes that he's talking about right here in this segment that it's a very, very big deal. A couple quotes right here. Number one, he says, intelligent people learn from their mistakes. Everyone else becomes an analyst or an advisor. I 1000% agree with this. Basically, the metaphor here is, when you are trying to build something or start something, you will make mistakes and you will learn from that. If you don't learn from your mistakes, you'll just judge other people that are trying to do it and act as if you're a smart person, when in reality, all you're doing is trying to analyze, not actually do things in the world. Then he says, do you want to believe what the librarian says about a book, or do you want to go out in the world and see if it works? Essentially saying these AIP boot camps are actually showing technological progress, which is why he mentions their U.S. commercial customer base gets it, even if the analysts don't. And that is why they are seeing the momentum of reacceleration and growth in U.S. commercial that they're getting right now. He then says they have a huge opinion on how to handle LLMs, they being the analysts. It's completely theoretical and idiotic. If you want to manage LLMs or AI, the infrastructure that allows you to manage them is where the actual value is, aka the ontology. And we've talked about this a lot over the past couple of weeks, especially when it comes to justifying the valuation. And if the valuation primarily is based on this AI thematic over the next decade that is going to unlock trillions of dollars, particularly in the enterprise, then the LLM is a commodity. It's just that simple. If you're a Palantir investor, that's the number one thing you need to understand, which is whatever Anthropic or OpenAI is building will be commoditized. Maybe a lot of the value goes to OpenAI because they were the first to do it and they have the best LLM, but it is a commodity. We are seeing plenty of other companies like Meta and Google build their own LLMs, because it's not that it's that hard to build it. It's just that you need a lot of GPU, a lot of CapEx spend. And if you are a company that has that CapEx spend, you can do it. But if everyone can do it, then at the end of the day, it becomes a commodity. What actually matters is attaching that LLM to an agentic workflow that makes sense in the context of your business operations, which is what Palantir has worked on for the past 20 years, which is the ontology. So I think right there, that was an important thing to say in this interview, because Karp's basically saying everyone thinks the value is in the LLMs. It's not in the LLMs. He's been saying this for the past couple months now. And again, he reiterated this point to kind of justify why the analysts don't really understand what the hell is going on with Palantir, besides Dan Ives and Mariana. I mean, these two are the only people that really understand what the hell is going on with Palantir, and as a result, their price targets have reflected what they're saying. And then finally, Karp says, people have been saying we are overvalued for 20 years. People have been saying your products wouldn't make us profitable, that we would not be able to become a juggernaut, that we would not become GAAP profitable, that we would not get into the S&P. Keep saying that about us. We love it. It discourages people from doing anything like what we're doing, and we are winning. Just makes me excited to invest in Palantir, dude. It's these moments that make you remember how cool it is to invest in this company, how cool it is to cover this company, and also Karp Speaking like a startup founder that is 3 years into the game and is trying to get his company out there. This is a 20-year-old company that's in the S&P 500 approaching $100 billion market cap, and you still have this level of energy. Karp is a multi-billionaire. Like, at this point, money is not going to make that much of a difference in his life. It genuinely seems like he eats, sleeps, and breathes Palantir, and he just wants to continue doing what he can do best, which is executing on building this company. One more 2-minute clip I want to show you guys, and then we'll end it off for today. This was Karp, who had another mic drop moment talking about the context of American defense. Here we go.
So I obviously agree with what Chris said. I think for me, the most important thing any administration can do is articulate a patriotic message. America and the way we organize things is something we are willing to fight for. And then once you've articulated we are going to fight for our way of life, a lot of decisions follow. And then how do you fight for it in the DoD context? Well, if hardware, software, hybrid AI is our advantage, then maybe you should look at okay, well, who are the people who do it? Buying software and AI from somebody who's never built any system that's ever worked, or buying it from a PowerPoint, or not having a commercial vendor preference is literally suicide. So, but the first thing is to say, and then I would start renaming things. It's like, I don't understand why we have a Department of Defense. We should have a Department of Offense.
This was we were listening to this live in the market close. As soon as he said it, I was like, oh my gosh, that was cool. I don't know why we have a Department of Defense. We should have a Department of Offense. Karp's been thinking of that for the past couple of weeks, and he was waiting to drop that, and boom, he just dropped it, and it landed. I like that one. I really like that one.
And the other, I personally believe we have to have red lines, and then we should go ahead and violate them to show people how serious we are. Why do we wait till our enemies attack? It makes no sense. It does not lead to peace. You have this famous thing, it's a paradox of thrift, where if you oversave, you get poorer, which every progressive learns. It's tattooed on our bodies. There's a paradox of violence. If you never use violence, the world gets more violent. And so we need patriotism and competence and a willingness to use violence. And I don't know why we wait till people get up and hurt us, kidnap us. And last not least, as I've said over and over, if you touch an American citizen, we will go after you. We'll go after your assets. We'll go after everything. We'll can keep on going for generations. We cannot allow people to just kidnap and kill Americans wantonly and then say we're going to have a memorandum at the United Nations, essentially an academic institution that pushes papers for despots. So we really need to change our footing on this. And by the way, we're in a position to do it because our economy is the strongest in the world. We're the only people producing AI. We have the best CEOs in the world, and we have the best warfighters in the world.
All right.
Karp right there is speaking like a guy who maybe is getting ready to deliver their first 30% growth quarter in about 2 years. I don't know if it's going to happen. Maybe it doesn't happen this quarter. Maybe it happens over the next few quarters, but I think 30% growth is coming back. I think that's going to be very exciting when that happens, that the market really cares about SaaS companies having that 30% top line ARR growth. And he's also speaking as someone who understands the complexities of defense, understands the market opportunity for partnering with other defense contractors and being the main software prime on a lot of these contracts. And I think you got Karp basically saying that if all these other countries across the world are going to follow the US's lead when it comes to defense spend, the number one software company should be Palantir that they think of. And I think these moments are very important because him going on CNBC and being as ferocious as he's being with his vocabulary, his vernacular, saying we need a Department of Offense, not a Department of Defense. If you are some executive, or forget executive, if you are some head of state that is thinking of upping your defense budget and thinking of having a digital transformation and actually having defense products that keep you safe, I think you see these 2 minutes and you're like, I need to get on the phone with this guy. I need to at least learn what this company's about. And that potentially translates to more revenue in the government business. So I think this was an exceptional interview. It was the first time we got this type of Karp in a while. I think it's been at least 4 or 5 months where we got. I think the last time we got this was when Karp said the shorts should stop doing cocaine, and that was back in March of 2024. So it's been a few months now where we got this level of just like excitement from Karp around what's happening with Palantir, and it makes sense. S&P 500 inclusion. A lot of people questioning if the stock should be at this level, and you got Karp coming on and saying not only should we be at this level, but we're probably going to be higher than these levels. And it's all a contingent on if they can continue to grow. And based on this interview, based on Karp talking about the macro landscape around AI, ontology, defense, it seems like they're ready to really get back to reaccelerating growth. So exciting stuff. Happy to be a shareholder again of Palantir. Happy to be covering the company. Thank you, everybody, for joining every single day. Thank you all for the well wishes while I was in India. We are back in action. Daily Palantir, Palantir Weekly. We'll be back tomorrow on this channel as well, 11 p.m. Eastern on Friday. And we'll keep going from there. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you guys in the next one.